Peace and blessings, everyone. Assalamu alaikum and Eid Mubarak to my Muslim family. We have an amazing show today. So thank y'all for tapping in. I was running a few minutes late, waiting for my AirPods to charge. But we all here, we good, it's all good. So thank you for tapping in. You are tuned in to the Art of Living show. I am the host, the creator of it, Youni Muhammad. This is also a podcast as well. So you can go to your Apple iTunes and tap into some of our previous shows on the podcast. And then, of course, everything is live and saved on our YouTube channel. So you can listen to some older interviews. This is our second season. Really excited. And I believe this is my second interview this year. So, we're just continuing to push out positive information, positivity, positive vibes, and everything that falls in between that. So for those of you that are viewing, if you can just drop the number 1 in the chat, let me know if my audio is good, just to make sure that I have everything set up. And also, so you all know, we are live from Portland, Oregon. Our guests that will be joining in shortly, about 4 minutes, they are both not from Portland, so they are tapping in from their home city and state. So really just excited to be able to have this platform and this opportunity for us to have a real healthy but a very important conversation. Thank you all for dropping that number 1 in the chat, again, for the audio. So but our conversation today, and actually, let me back up before I kind of jump into today's topic. The main purpose of why I created my YouTube channel is, one, I've met a lot of great human beings in my many years, right? My many years of traveling, my many years of being in the nation, and also just being about any work that elevates our people, right? And so I do think when you tap into social media and you understand the value of YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, when you understand the value of these tools, then we also begin to understand that we can control our media. And oftentimes we are exposed to someone else's program, right? Every time we turn on the TV, every time we turn on the internet, you get an ad, you get all these, promotions or ideas of someone else's agenda, someone else's program. And so I think it's incumbent on us as people that believe we are awoken or awake or got some knowledge of self or whatever falls in between that category. I think it's on us to create our story and create our narrative. We don't have enough conversations and enough public showings of positive energy and positive and highlight conversations that really get us to think outside of our everyday struggle that we have in our lives, right? I don't need to hear another story about a Black man or a Black woman being gunned down by the police, right? So in order for me to not hear that story, I got to make sure that I'm putting my energy in creating a story, if that makes sense. So I'm really committed to putting positivity out, right? Yeah, it doesn't mean that we ignore those issues. We address those issues, but we also need to hear highlights and successes and wins of our people and testimonies of our own struggles, so that we can see in someone else the same struggle that we have, right? So that's kind of the context of why the Art of Living YouTube channel was created, and the podcast, right? It's also the title of my book. If you ever want to check my book out, it's on my website, travelingpillar.com. I'll drop that down there for you all. Or you can actually purchase it here at this website, YouniMuhammad.co. But my book is also called The Art of Living. And the premise behind that is that I truly believe that there is an art to living. And I think oftentimes we exist or we go through the motions, but we don't really have the formula to really figure out how to actually live, right? I don't want to just exist in life. I want to live, right? I want to experience life. I want to be in a situation where I'm just not paycheck to paycheck, day to day, right? But experiencing life, going through the joys of life. So that's the title of the book, is The Art of Living, that I wrote 2 years ago, right at the start of COVID. And that book, to be honest with you all, it's not a book that I'm saying like you have to read this book. And if you don't read this, you're not, you know, going to be able to apply anything. Like my book is a self guide, right? So you read the book, it gives you ideas, gives you some thoughts to think about. I do believe there's, many ways to get to the truth. But there is only one truth, right? So, the book is just to give us ideas. So if you want to purchase the book, go ahead and go to my website, Youni Muhammad, for The Art of Living, and you can get yourself a copy. There's only about 2 hard copies left. So I would hurry up if I were you. But otherwise, today's topic. So today's topic is mental health equals spiritual health. And we're going to dive in and talk about why we even put them to be synonymous with one another, or why one equals the other one. But we really want to talk about it. We have a lot of conversations. I'm sure you all have had conversations with people. We talk about our young people dealing with social emotional challenges, especially after COVID. Well, the adults did too, and we have our own struggles and our own situations that we're going through ourselves. And so we definitely want to have this conversation thinking about COVID, but more importantly, looking at the psyche of the individual pre-COVID. Doesn't even matter, whatever time period you want to put on it. We want to definitely dive into, again, our psyche, our wellness, our whole entire concept of mental health, and how it's directly connected to our spiritual health. So that's our conversation. We getting ready to jump in. I see that my guests are in the building. So, in the building, right? In the virtual building. Let me bring it back. But I'm excited. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to bring my guests in, and we're going to just, drop some knowledge for everybody. And of course, anyone that has questions, please use the chat. The chat is the greatest feature. So if you have questions as you hear our conversation, please join us. But anyway, Assalamu alaikum to everyone. How are you? I'm so excited. So excited. Let me make sure I get my video together. I'm so ready. So I'm just like, I'm excited. I'm excited. The sun is out. So we just gonna roll with it. So I'm gonna start with my sister, Youni Hersoul. Sister, can you just give a brief intro of who you are, and then I'll pass it over to Dr. Muhammad as well.
Yes, ma'am. So I am a creator, I like to say now. I used to call myself an artist, but I found that I love all the arts. And so I'm just a creator, not only in the world, but in the world of arts. I am currently on the Pathless Path, which is my back to self movement that I'm on to really try to find my authentic self. And so I am a seeker of self. I am a lover of God, a daughter of Allah, and I am your guest today.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you're going to share more later, but
Yes,
thank you for
ma'am.
that. Absolutely. And Dr. Muhammad Lewis.
Greetings to everyone. I am so honored to be here as always with you, Amani, and greetings to you, Sister Yasoni. I probably just messed up your name.
It's okay.
Look, because I can't see, because I'm trying to be cute and left my glasses at home. But I am an advocate for the people in my community. I specialize in drugs and alcohol health and well-being, mental health. I have my own private practice called A New Vision for You. And it is just exactly that, is a new vision for you. I am a champion for the people and making sure that Black people receive mental health. It is such a thing that we will not receive in our communities, because when you say mental health, people say, well, I'm not crazy. Well, COVID showed us that, it's more than just, take a pill and get over it. So we'll get a little bit into the difference, or the coinciding with spiritual health and mental health.
Absolutely. Thank you both for that. So sis, I'm going to say Hersoul. I'm going to start with the Hersoul. Sis, can you just, your story briefly that you shared with me, not only is it I mean, it's a testimony, of course, but it is just powerful, right? I mean, and just anyone that may have seen the social media post that I put out there, I had a picture of the number of medications that you were once assigned. So can you go into just kind of just, you know, a little bit of your story, just how you went from that, you know, and where you are today, for the people?
Okay, yes. So I just want to say it is Youni, so like
Yeah.
Youni, and that's for it. Don't feel bad. Everybody does it. You know, I hear different variations of the pronunciation, so it's all right. But so I can say as young as I can remember, 11, 12 years old, I always struggled with emotional regularity, and I didn't really understand at that time. It was heavily related to my empathic abilities, me absorbing other people's emotions and taking them on as my own. But I was always considered very moody, very sensitive, very anxious. I was not socially out there, you know. I liked being around people, but when I got into social environments, I kind of withdrew and I closed myself in because energetically I was feeling too much and I didn't know how to process that information. So I was always super emotional. Anything anybody said to me, I was crying. So around 12 or 13, I started to receive therapy. I was immediately put on a antidepressant, which I was very young at that time. So it kind of made me feel numb. Like I didn't feel any emotions. And I didn't like that. So I don't even think I told my mom that I had just stopped taking the medication because I was like, I don't like this. Like I'm not my goofy, silly self anymore. And so I kind of just stopped taking the medication. Around 13, 14, the emotional irregularity became so heavy on me that I started sneaking and drinking. And so I would go into my mom's liquor and I would drink. I would like pour me shots, or it even got to the point where I was finding ways to incorporate it in my food. So like when I would make like ramen noodles on the stove, this probably sounds crazy, but I would like pour the liquor.
Mm-hmm.
I would put like, you know, water, but I would like fill more of it with liquor, and then I would let the noodles cook in the liquor, and then I would eat the noodles because I needed that numbing without the medication type of numbing that I was receiving. And so by the time I was in high school, I was definitely a closet drinker. By the time I got to about 11th, 12th grade, I was a binge drinker. So, you know, at that time, all the people I was hanging around with every weekend, we're drinking fifth bottles, you know, we're smoking weed, we're doing all of these things, numbing all of our different variations of pain that we're experiencing, right? And so I had been back and forth between different therapies at that time, but I didn't feel like anybody really connected with me. I felt, you know, even racially, when I was in therapy, they were kind of just looking at me like, oh, this little Black girl, who cares what she's saying, you know? And so that was the energy that I felt. And so I just didn't want to be a part of the therapy anymore. So the self-medicating was the best route I felt. When I was a senior in high school, I got pregnant with my first child, and that caused me to, you know, stop the drinking and stop the smoking temporarily. But even in my pregnancy, the intensifying of my emotions came at. So when I found out I was pregnant, I ended up collapsing at school, and I collapsed and I went into a seizure. This was my first seizure that I had ever had, and then when I was 6 months pregnant with my oldest son, the seizures became consistent. So for the past 14, 15 years, I was having seizures on a consistent basis. Um, After the seizures kind of started, it magnified the mental health experiences that I was having because it was to the point where I couldn't eat certain foods or it would trigger a seizure. If I got overly anxious, it would trigger a seizure. And more recently, prior to my seizures ending, I was scared to leave the house for anticipation that I was going to have a seizure when I was in the car. Like it was really bad. And the drinking on and off that I had experienced magnified the amount of seizures that I was experiencing. So, in the midst of, before I even came to the conclusion that I was going through something more heavily spiritual than mental, particularly for me, I was about 20 21, and I started experiencing what they would consider manic like episodes. So
Mm.
I was having extreme highs and extreme lows. I was having violent thoughts. I was having suicidal thoughts. Now, at this time, I was yet again prescribed an antidepressant. Zoloft, I believe, was the only medication I was on. I was seeing a family physician. They were trying to diagnose me with lupus, trying to explain my physical pains, which was my trauma manifesting in me physically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to say lupus, fibromyalgia, and they're prescribing me all these medications for these different things. So I'm seeing 3 different doctors who are all prescribing me 3 different things. They're not correlating with each other, you know what I mean? And so it was to the point where I was being hospitalized in outpatient or overnight emergency facilities. You know, I was going to the ER, they were pink slipping me to overnight facilities. I was faking, oh, I feel better now because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be in here, you know.
Right.
They're releasing me, I'm going home, and I'm repeating these same cycles. July of 2011, I believe it was like the most intense time for me. I attempted suicide twice
Mm-hmm.
with a knife, attempting to, you know, have risk things going on. And so I was yet again pink slipped into a intensive therapy program. And so there's a facility in my hometown, Akron, Ohio, called Behavioral Health. And I was put into the intensive therapy program, which is now called Pathways. And I had to go to therapy 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 months straight.
Mm.
And in this therapy, we did cognitive therapy. We did we talked about core beliefs. We talked about distortions and defenses. And then it was always in a group setting. So it was kind of, we got to hear other people's stories and their experiences. During that time, my episodes were very extreme. It would be the point, I remember this one time very specifically. I was in the grocery store with my son, and I was just calm and I was normal, and I was pushing the cart, and all of a sudden I just got like this rush of energy, right? This manic like episode. And I hopped in the cart and I like pushed the cart and I was like rolling through the grocery store and I was like, "Wah!" And I'm like screaming and stuff. And my son was like so embarrassed. He's like, "Oh my God, Mom, what are you doing?" But it was like this overwhelming amount of energy that I could not
Mm-hmm.
control.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to the outpatient therapy program, you know, every morning it was kind of a reprogramming of the mind. So every morning we came in, we had to go over the core beliefs. I am capable, I am good enough, I am lovable, I am worthy, and I am safe. And then we would go over the distortions and the defenses. And then we would go into the assignment for the day. So we would do like a coloring assignment, or we would go into pick a very traumatic event that happened to you, and then we're going to break it down. And so by the time I finished the program, I had a very good understanding of the psychology of what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt calmer in that sense, right? Handling my trauma and processing it. Even in my relationships with my mother, I kind of was able to speak about things that I had held in for a very long time. And it actually put more strain on our relationship in the beginning because she wasn't anticipating it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I was like, oh, okay, you know, I'm healed. Woohoo. I'm ready to, I'm ready to live life. You know, at this time, I'm still on about 3 medications or whatever. And then that's when the spiritual stuff really took off.
Mm-hmm.
I got into a relationship with someone who was very spiritually sent to me to let me know your journey is just beginning. And in that dynamic with that person, I experienced the most depressive state that I had ever been in. I ended up having 2 more children and already not really fully being healed, and then having postpartum. And
Mm-hmm.
then 3 months later, I was pregnant again. So I had another episode of postpartum. And so on top of the seizures, so I was experiencing so much within this 5-year span. Um, so eventually I got to a place where I was sleeping every day. I remember one day I had 17 seizures in one day. It was just insane. And you know, when you have a seizure, so I have simple partial. So it's basically I'm fully conscious when I'm having the seizures, but I can't move and I cannot speak. And then after it's over, I go into the post-ictal phase. I'm extremely fatigued. I need to sleep sometimes 2 to 3 hours, and sometimes for days after, I'm very much not functioning properly. So it was getting to the point, it was life or death. It was like, I'm not living right now, and I have to figure out how to get to living. I came across a sister, a beautiful sister. She would label herself at one time as a witch, so to speak, but she introduced me into alchemy. She introduced me into chakras. She introduced me into my thoughts manifesting. I didn't know any of this prior to that. And so it was only like a short period of time. It actually started, she makes like Youni products, right? So she was making me these steams, and she added me to this Facebook group. And the things that these women were talking about was like, oh my God, what is this stuff? And I went into hermit mode for about 3 months, and I did like all this research. I was like looking at books. I was going to crystal shops. I was watching YouTube videos. I started meditating. And the thing that really opened the door to my healing was I did a chakra meditation. And the chakra meditation, I followed the instructions. I like took notes, and I like drew this diagram of like a person, and then I drew the colors and the sounds, the chants I was supposed to make with each color and everything. And then and I finally sat down and I did it. And you hear the word euphoria, but you don't really know what it means until you experience it. And so I did that first chakra meditation, and I had all this euphoric energy through my body, my chakras like really opening up for the first time. And I felt this elation for like 10 minutes. And I was like, this is it. This is what the medicine couldn't give me. And so after that, it was like I engulfed myself into the spiritual realm, trying to figure out how to make it happen. And February 16th, I celebrated 3 years of being medication free. And yes. And it's just ever since then, my life has it's just been going up and up and up. So that's just little pieces. And I'm sure you guys want to dive in, and we have questions. And then I also shortly want to read a little bit of the book that I'm writing.
I'm so glad as I was listening to you because I'm full right now just listening to you because our journeys are similar. We literally match each other. It's the journey, the medication, and finding the spirituality. I'm a channeler and a healer. So when I heard you say you were an empath, when you started explaining, I already knew you were trying to get to your calling as an empath, because the physical things it does to us when we don't know what that is. And myself, I'm 28 years clean and sober off of heroin addiction. So all of the gifts that we have, because we don't know, we don't recognize, no one teaches us that from, back in the day, we tend to cover it up because we can't explain it. And if we try to explain it, people are looking at you like, huh? I mean, if you was to tell somebody you were an empath 20 years ago, they'd have been looking at you, sideways. But today, when I hear you say that, I understand that because I'm a channeler and a healer, and I learned it the hard way, just like you did. So thank you for sharing.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. And that's amazing. 28 years. That's beautiful.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Sis, I mean, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story, because one of the things that I think is so important, and this is why I just, I have this platform, but why I just tell my own story too, is like there's healing hearing about someone else's story. And it's so important. And it's especially for Black women, we have to know that we are not alone in our struggles, and so the fact that you two had affinity, just hearing 10 minutes of someone's story, and it was like, there was a connection. And so sis, thank you for sharing that. And yes, we are going to continue to go deep, but I just wanted to honor that. And thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
One of the things I want to ask, and I'm going to pass this over to you, the doctor, I never call her.
grandma's a doctor, so she's having a hard time with that right now.
No, I love
It's
it.
okay.
I love it. I love it. I'm like, she's a doctor, y'all. It's beautiful. You know, I guess I want to ask you, but I kind of wanted to hear your reflections of, you know, pieces of that about how, you know, being diagnosed at 13 or 12, right? And giving children medication at that age. What just, I guess, can you reflect on one, do you think we should be giving children medication at that early age as a general, right? I know there's exceptions to the rule, but in terms of medication for children, because of what behaviors are popping up, you know, how have you seen that in the work that you do, and just kind of some reflection on medication on children in general?
Medication is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It just really is. Our children, I don't work with children. I work with adults, but as a general rule, putting children on medication, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, it stunts the growth of their minds, because what you teach children is that I need a pill to be okay. And if you constantly put that in a child's mind, then they start acting out accordingly. Or if the pill that they gave them is not stopping them from being anxious, it's not stopping them from being disruptive, if it's not doing what is expected for it to do, then again, you're altering a child's mind for no reason, instead of guiding and leading a child to a place where they can be comfortable. But again, too, parents need to listen to their children. Children will tell us the exact truth, even when it's bent with a lie. We just have to be able to, because children are creative, and they're way more creative today with embellishing the truth.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
So, but we have to listen to our children. If they tell you they hear voices, don't panic.
Right.
Find out what kind of voices they hear. What does those voices tell them? Does those voices command them to do things? Is it an audible voice where they literally can hear somebody or see somebody? Talk to them. But we get spooked. And as Black people, we just get spooked in general, from old school. Just, girl, go sit down over there. Get demons over there somewhere, and we want to take them to church and get hands laid on them. And, I hope I didn't offend anybody, but, we want to lay hands on them when, the laying of the hands might not be on the head. It might be on the behind. And so, we have to be clear about how we receive our children. When facing mental illness, it's really easy for us to lose our spiritual health. Because it doesn't seem as if they go together. But body, mind, and spirit are all influence of one another. So by improving your spiritual health, you contribute to the healing process of your life. And knowing the difference between religion and spirituality. So that's such a broad facet when you talk about children with medication. You talk about adults with medication. It's almost as if as adults we can say, no, I don't want to take that. But children can't. So the parents have to be educated enough to know if they're facing something with their child, then maybe it might be that there's a little bit more attention needed in that area to be able to help that child produce or be productive in their life. Much like you, Youni, I was on medication for about 18 years, and I had like 14, probably close to 14 different I'm talking about mental health medications, because when I got sober, they thought I needed meds. And they said the same thing, you're bipolar. Well, you know, I later found that I tricked my brain into being bipolar because I was using cocaine and heroin. So using those two, my brain automatically tuned to the ups and downs of the drugs. So when I stopped using drugs, my brain still operated in that.
Right.
You know, and I couldn't function. I couldn't function. So I had to go to the mental health doctor. And they kept giving me medications till they found what they thought was a prescription to fit it. And I haven't been on medication for 12 years. Once I tapped in, like you did, I stopped taking the medication and never looked back. The doctor never took me off. Spirit took me off. And I never went back. So,
and you know, it's funny you say that about the drugs, right? Because in before I got pregnant with my oldest, and I was doing the heavy drinking and the smoking, I was also very into pills. So like Percocets and ecstasy, right? And you know, different ecstasy pills that people can make them in their house. They're mixing heroin and just whatever they want, and they're combining it all together. So even sometimes when I would do the drug, I would have different experiences depending on who made it. And sometimes I would have a really low experience, and sometimes I would have a really high experience. And just knowing that if there's no recipe for it, right? So who really knows what I was taking several times? And so when you said that your brain had become, you know, tuned to the highs and the lows of the medication, that was just, you know, very insightful and impactful, because it is very true, because I dabbled in those areas in pill form.
And that's, I mean, yes. So I wanted to go to that piece about the medication, right? Because both of you have spoken to the point of when you were able to tap in to what was already inside, right? So again, and I think Sister Arisah just mentioned the medication was, you know, covers something, right? But it's not getting to the root. Or, you know, when you shared your story about adding alcohol to think just to be numb, right? But there's something about the medication that either blocks our ability to tap into what we need to tap into, you know, within ourselves. And so I guess both of you speak on, and I know this may sound like an obvious question, but we're going to talk about it. Can you speak on why you think the medications and the pharmaceuticals are always pushed on us first, rather than tapping into, you know, the chakras or the inner side of things that can actually truly be healing to us? So why do you think the pharmaceuticals and the medication piece is even pushed on in the way that it is?
Well, I'll say for two reasons. Money, obviously. There is no money in a healed person. The medical industry is about money. The pharmaceutical industry wants to make money. And I'll say secondly, particularly for me, and I kind of really just came to this conclusion as I am more capable of tapping into my divinity, right? And understanding my gifts is, and, you know, maybe to somebody who hasn't reached a level of spirituality, it might sound crazy, or it might sound, what's the word? You know, like a conspiracy theory-ish, right? But I feel like energetically and spiritually, those almost 10 years that I was on all of these medications was a specific attack against me, because they know our power. They know who we are. They know our purpose here on this planet, on this earth, to help and assist other people. And because of that, when we come in, especially the melanated original people, when we come into these facilities and we're listing these symptoms, now I'm not saying everybody who works in mental health or in the health industry is conscious of the truth, right? But there's a level of programming implemented into this field that when we come in with these labels, they're perceiving us as sick, right? But the people who implemented these institutions, they know that these are our gifts speaking to us. And they don't want us to activate our gifts, because if we do, then we have control over our sovereignty. And there is no use. A citizen who is a sovereign being, you know, they have no use for them.
Right.
And that's my true belief, because once you tap into your powers and you really start to see things for as they are, especially in the corporation in which we live, then you are kind of useless to them, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And in all fairness as well, too, the pharmaceutical industry, yes, it is about money, but it's not new, because they experimented with their people way before they experimented with us. You know, because, you know, having drugs on a pharmaceutical basis for Caucasian people was normal. You know, mom always had Xanax in the cabinet, or a diet pill, so she could keep her beauty, or whatever the case may be. And then when they found that they were losing control of us as a people, then they started because now people are becoming mindful of cocaine in the neighborhood. Now people are becoming mindful of the heroin in the neighborhood. Now people are becoming mindful. We're becoming mindful. So now they're turning the tables, and so they're starting with our youth, with our children. They're starting in the embryos of our babies before they're born. They're starting in places like that, getting our minds. Now, they done took our minds off of the weed on the corner and put our mind on the weed in the stores now that they manufacture. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, well, I never smelled weed smell the way that I smell it now. When I smell it, it makes me sick. I mean, you know,
the skunk smell.
Right.
Chemicals in that. And we steady smoking it and talking about the white man is the devil, but we don't understand the devil that's in us that we need to arrest.
Come on now.
And if we would look at it from that way, from that perspective, then we wouldn't be so quick as to put these things in our minds. Because here it is. Now we're having a conversation about the pharmaceuticals and about the pills. Now watch the tables turn. Watch the tables turn. That's why we got to go within. That's why we got to look for within. We are kings and queens and warriors. We come from warriors. You know, the universe is ours. And we have the power to call it into existence, whatever it is. But we can't call it if we're blind. We can't call it if we're sick. You know, so when we're struggling with our spiritual health, we need to ask ourselves questions that would make us think, like, what makes me feel complete? I have a thing that I say, I am complete, healthy, wealthy, and whole. I don't care what's going on.
Right.
I am complete, healthy, wealthy, and whole. Then ask yourself, when do I feel most connected to the rest of the world? I'm never connected to the rest of the world. I'm always connected to me and God, but not the rest of the world.
Right.
So trying to fit myself in a place where I don't belong is the thing that I struggle with most of the time. Okay?
Come on now.
And then where do I find the most inner strength? Where do I find my inner strength from? Learning about my chakras, learning about my heritage, learning about who I am as woman. Woman in Arabic means womb of mind. Understanding what I hold as a woman. And then, last but not least, what am I doing when I feel whole? What are you doing when you feel whole? I feel whole when I'm having conversations like this.
Come on.
You know, when I'm teaching the word of God. You know, when I'm in my backyard barefooted, singing to the birds or singing to the birds. You know what I mean? That's what I'm doing when I feel whole. And so those are the things that if we could just bring ourselves back to that, and you know, you'll get the people, the skeptics, to say, okay, well, that's easy for you, and I'm not connected to that, and that spiritual stuff. Ooh, okay, then ask yourself if what you're doing is working for you. See, because you know, all of it might not work for you, but if you take bits and pieces and take the time to tap in, we are scared of ourselves as people. We really are. We're scared. We're scared to be different.
Yep.
But the word different means not like another. And we as Black people are not like another.
By nature.
By nature.
Just period.
I'll leave that right there.
And you know what? It's funny that you say we're scared of ourselves, right? Because even in my journey with my back to self movement, right? And I've gone through these different variations. And even when you brought up the difference between religion and spirituality, right? I grew up Baptist, right? And then for the longest, I was an atheist. I'm like, it ain't no God because this just don't make sense to me. When I go to church, I don't feel nothing. I don't know what y'all talking about. You know what I mean? And then I got introduced into Hidden Colors, right? So then I was like, I'm Afro. You know, I went through all of these. I went through all these variations of looking for myself in these structures that have been implemented for us to be ourselves, right? And then I came to the conclusion of omniism. It's all the same thing. Like you just said in the beginning, there's only one truth, but it's just different ways to get to it. And when we really realize the truth is us, and it's so funny, and we talk about even, you know, in religion, we talk about God wants us to seek perfection. No, God wants us to see that we are perfection. And in that, we will find the solution to our problems. In that, we will find our peace when we accept ourselves. Right. And so when I'm going to this back to self movement and even struggling in my modesty, right? And feeling, oh, I need to be modest in this way, or I need to not be modest in that way. And sometimes I want to cover and sometimes I don't. And that's okay, because that does not mean that I am not a woman of God. And so coming to these realizations that, you know, who we are, we have different variations of levels of expressing the same thing. We are all God manifested in different variations. And once we accept that, then it's like the weight just falls off and we can relax. And then we can manifest what we really want.
I was just going to say, then we begin to manifest. And all of those things that we say we wish, we should have, we dream, they will begin to happen when we do that first step, which is recognizing who we are and whose we are, the child of God, you know. So I'm going to ask this question. It came in the chat because, I have 1,000 questions of my own, but I'm going to stay focused. So Sister Kendra dropped in the chat, and this is for both of you. What's the most important resource that helped you tap into your chakras or divinity?
God.
I'm gonna say meditating. I think for me specifically, especially because, like she said, channeling, right? Even channeling things from source and having telepathic conversations going on, and you don't know that's what's going on, and reading people's energy and all of these different things, my brain is constantly moving. I was just speaking to a sister about that yesterday. Even now and still, because I have not been meditating as much as I usually do, my brain don't shut off. When I go to sleep, it's nonstop, right? So I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, but we don't know how to express it, that's what's happening, right? So I think meditating for me was the first thing, even if you're just doing 5 minutes of breathing, because that's important too. We don't even breathe correctly. Right. I get told all day, breathe, because I meditate, but I still find myself, I'm sitting here holding my breath because I'm thinking about what's going on in my brain, right? And so us taking deep breaths and breathing is like really going to open up the door for you. If you can find 5 minutes 3 times a week to meditate, that is really going to start to give your brain a chance to even realize this feels off in me. You'll start to notice what's in your body is off, right? And your chakras are directly correlated to your body, right? So like your sacral chakra, that is your womb area, that is your creative area, right? That's where you manifest and you birth things from, right? And your root chakra, I still struggle with that, staying grounded and staying rooted. It's weird because I'm an earth sign, but I have issues with my root chakra, right? So your root chakra is directly correlated with feeling safe, with feeling financially stable, with feeling secure in your home, or even feeling like you need a home. So when you pay attention and really that's another way to notice, right? Whatever areas you're really struggling with in your life, whether it's financially or you have lots of arguments and battles with people, right? So financial, you need to work on your root chakra. If you're having constant arguments and you don't get along with people, you need to work on your heart space because you have resentment and you're projecting onto people. And so it's really about being in tune with your body, meditating, and then, you know, there is chakras is available anywhere. You have to be very careful about the resources you use because it's kind of, spirituality's become a trend, right? And sometimes people can just say anything.
Ooh,
but
Lord.
I mean, there's books and reputable, we can make sure, you know, we get lists out to you guys, other than I'm sure this doctor has some good reads for you, and I'm working on my book. But it's really about paying attention to your own body and what feels off, and then being honest about where you messing up in life. Where am I not doing what I need to do? And I guarantee you is directly correlated with a chakra that is either closed or too open, your sacral chakra. A lot of women and even men especially go through promiscuity, right? And we're just sleeping around with a bunch of people and we're just doing all these things because our sacral chakra is either damaged from trauma or it's too open and we feel too sexually explorative. And so we have to pay attention to all of that. Even when having sex, you're creating soul ties. And so you have sex with John, and John has sex with 10 people. You have undirect soul ties with all 10 of those people.
Right,
You're taking on energy from all 10 of those people.
Hold on. That is yes. That's a whole nother, that's another topic.
That's a whole podcast within itself.
Okay. Yes. How you transmit energy, girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But the thing for me is God. A spirit talks to me all day. That's how I know when I'm off. I learned how to talk to God by talking to God. and in that I connected with God, and now spirit talks to me all day, whether I'm meditating, whether I'm driving, whether I'm even when I've always known that I've had what the church called spiritual discernment. I've always had that, only to learn the new term today is channeling. So I've always had that, and understanding the energies and knowing that it's just accepting that. Accepting what is being told to my inner being. Because I came from a path of nothingness. And when you're on a path of nothingness, where you're always living in hell, and you can't see the tree, the forest for the trees as they see. Now I can see the forest. I see how beautiful the forest is, but I couldn't see the forest for all the damn trees in the way, you know? And so once I was able to see that just gave me the okay. God gave me the okay to be me. I didn't have to get that. And as a result of anything that I went and searched out spiritually, I already had it. It just got manifested. And then I started speaking things into existence because I can. And being able to receive that and do that. And I do it as humbly as I can, but it's a power that is given to me by God through the universe. And so when people ask me about tapping into chakras and things like that, the first thing that I tell them, just take your shoes off and go stand in your backyard. Just do that. Do that for 90 days and call me. Right. You know, stand in your background, in your backyard, because your root is connected to the earth. So go stand barefooted there. And then come, and then I tell them to write how you felt. Do it for 5 minutes, do it for 10 minutes. Write how you felt. Because when I guide people on energy levels to tapping in their chakras, I want them to have their experience. I don't want them to have
right.
You know, and so everybody has different ways of how they get there. To answer sister's question, because just like God, he has many names, but
Mm-hmm.
there's only one path to get to him. So whatever you call him, that's what works for you.
Right.
But it's just a matter of paying attention, understanding, and as Sister Youni said, just knowing yourself, getting to know who you are. It's important to know who you are versus everybody else telling you who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If I could add to that, I think we get hung up, and when I say we, I'm saying Black people, but it's the universal we too. Humanity gets hung up on titles and names and labels, right? So, for me, I think we get so lost, like what religion can get you like take all that off the table, right?
Yes.
And let's get practical. So one thing that I share in my book, I talk about let's look at our bodies as scientific beings, right? We are scientific. Arm, leg, arm, head. There is a reason that the heart doesn't do what the lung does. There's a reason that the toe doesn't do what the pinky does, right? There's science behind just the human body. So for me, it's like if we throw religion away just for the sake of my statement, throw all that away. And if you look in the mirror and you look at the human body, the creation of the human body, that's for me, that's where we start. And then I would attach, fasting and discipline, right? So those two principles for me, this is my own personal journey. When I fast and I can refrain from something that's a natural urge, right? When I can refrain from that builds up that God power within. And for me, that's what gets me closer to my chakras or meditation or just being closer to Allah in my relationship, because I'm able to refrain from natural urges. But again, I'm studying my body. So I know when I feel great. I know when I feel complete, because I'm actually having that conversation every day with my body, right? And so I think oftentimes we look for the external to give us that peace of mind. We look for the church, the mosque, the synagogue, the rabbi, the preacher, the sister, everybody outside of us to give us what you just mentioned, sis, about feeling complete, feeling rooted, feeling grounded. And so I think you said it earlier, we're scared of ourselves, right? That is really honestly true, though. And that's why we keep blaming everything outside of our own selves for why we don't have a peace of mind. So I wanted to just throw that in there, because I can go real spiritual, but I can also just bring it back to the day-to-day practicality, right? What are you feeding your body? Are you waking up and saying your prayers? Are you thanking the Lord for giving you a breath of life? Like, let's be real basic, because those little rituals or ways of devotion get us closer and get us connected more spiritually to where we need to be. So I just want
balance, because balance keeps us healthy and helps us to recover. Balance keeps us healthy and helps us to recover. If we don't have balance in anything that we do, we cannot recover in the area that we're trying to change. Two of the people that influenced my life, one of them being that most honorable Arisah Muhammad, says, accept your own and be yourself. But you got to know who yourself is. You got to know what you're accepting of yourself. If you don't know who yourself is, you don't know what you're accepting, you can't accept it. And then Dr. Wayne Dyer stated that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. How are we looking at things today? And so as Sister Youni said, spirituality is becoming a fad, because that's what happens. When we tap into something that is unusual, unnatural, unbeing, and everybody starts tapping into it, now it's a fad. But it's actually a fad. But they make it a fad. You don't concentrate on it.
Right.
Don't start me.
Listen, when they started selling sage at $5 Below, I was like, oh,
yes,
they really trying it.
Yes,
But it's okay, because it opens up a door either way. Just like social media they try to have control over it, right? And control of us with social media, but it's really like us right now being able to even do this, and we're all in different locations, and be able to share
Right.
this information. Ultimately, we will still be able to have the power and use the power the way we want to use the power, because we are the power. And so it doesn't really matter how fatty they make it or how much they try to downplay it. Those who need it will tap in, and they will get what they should from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I even think, like, it's just, so like I want to go into just a little bit. So the book that I'm writing is called Escaping the Farm, PHARM. And it's,
I love
I
it.
just
I love it.
That's so
thank
Yes.
cool.
you.
I
That's
love
cool.
it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, people will buy that just because of the title.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so the chapters are going to be pretty short. It's broken into 3 sections. And the way I kind of wrote it is, I escaped, right? And I felt like I was a prisoner, so to speak, to the farm, right? But that's also a victim mindset. That's also ideology. But I wrote it in that fashion just because most of the people in the world are in a victim mindset, and they can relate to that mindset. So
Right.
it's broken down in 3 sections. Section 1 is crime against humanity. Section 2 is identity theft, breaking down labels, which when I go into the different, so I wasn't just diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was diagnosed with schizoaffective, borderline personality, general anxiety, severe depression. Like, they was like, oh, let's just give her everything. I mean, why not? And then section 3 is Supreme Court entering the appeal. So you're going to appeal the own decision that you put on yourself, because this is really what has happened. You have sentenced yourself, right? And so the introduction is, there are nearly 1.8 million people in the United States that are incarcerated in some type of correctional facility. However, there are 131 million people, nearly 66% of all adults, who have been sentenced to the farm. I myself have never had to step foot inside of a physical jail cell, but unfortunately, I did serve an agonizingly long 10-year sentence on the farm. In order to be sent to the farm, 2 things need to happen. First, your entire perception of self needs to be completely deconstructed. Secondly, your false identity has to manifest enough experiences that advocate its existence that you perceive your true self as your false self. Once you have served in a certain amount of time, you have 2 options: to A, accept your new identity for the remainder of your incarnation, or B, plan your escape. I chose option B, and this is how I did it. And so in chapter 1, or in section 1, Crimes Against Humanity, chapter 1 is the deconstruction of self. Webster's dictionary gives several definitions of the word self, but only one deeply resonates with me. Self, the union of elements such as body, emotions, thoughts, and sensations that constitute individuality and identity of a person. And although Webster came very close to fully defining self as I have come to understand it, they left out one and very, very important aspect: the spirit. The spirit, defined as an immaterial, intelligent, or sentient part of a person, is the foundation of every living being, carrying infinite amounts of ancient wisdom that is inaccessible to the human consciousness alone. Generation after generation of being misinformed has programmed the average person to completely disconnect with the spiritual part of self. This connection does not indicate that the spiritual part no longer exists, but that it only exists in an unprotected state, leaving it susceptible to external manipulation. This manipulation enters our energetic field that surrounds our inner beliefs. From birth, we all carry a set of core beliefs. Through trauma, low vibrational experiences, the pressure and demands of others, these core beliefs become negative. We have not been taught about these beliefs. Therefore, when they become imbalanced, we do not notice, nor do we know how to correct them. The 5 main core beliefs that we all embody were given to us and embedded in us by the Creator, and is our natural given right. The following beliefs are: I am capable, I am good enough, I am lovable, I am worthy, I am safe, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically and energetically. The lack of knowledge of these beliefs, because we have the lack of knowledge of these beliefs, we ignore their significance. Therefore, our entire foundation is left unstable. Without this vital structure, our childhoods, teenage years, and adulthood are completely built upon a lack of knowledge of self. After the initial shift our core beliefs take from positive to negative, every negative encounter thereafter pulls us deeper into the false identity. These negative encounters can range from something as simple as being denied a favorite activity as a child to a more traumatic event such as an abusive relationship. Every time we are denied the opportunity to be our authentic self, it reinforces the false identity. This identity also carries beliefs, including negative versions of the ones mentioned above. Those would be considered primary beliefs that form secondary beliefs that we unconsciously affirm. They manifest themselves as anger, anxiety, depression, resentment, major mood swings, and many more so-called mental health diagnoses that the farm prescribes every day. The most unfortunate part that the farm system was built with the knowledge of this reality. Hence, the discontinued practices, which you brought up earlier, of attempting to purify the mentally ill of their evil spirits. So, doing all of this testing that they used to do early in the medical industry or the mental health industry, right? They're understanding that spirit being a major factor in an individual's mental stability led them to believe that the person must be possessed if that stability is not there. This created a hostile and suppressive environment for all patients involved. Since no actual treatment was being conducted, the patients became more comfortable with their false identities versus learning that they were false in the first place. People diagnosed with multiple personality disorders are a great example of the trauma creating numerous false identities. Each time a person experiences a traumatic event, a new identity is born. The consciousness does not have the ability to separate who it was during the traumatic event and who it actually is. This split creates identities that are separate from your true self. Everyone operating from their false selves continue to attract people, places, and things that reassure them that they are indeed the character they are playing. The proper title for this character is called the ego.
So when is your book done? When when is it going to press? And when can people buy it?
It will be, I'm going to spend the next 2 to 3 weeks finalizing everything for it. And then, I will have a release date then, but it will definitely be within the next couple months.
All right. Praise be to Allah.
Very good.
Praise be to Allah.
Very good.
Yes,
Very good. It sounds like it's going to be something that is going to be a good read, but a good teaching tool as well.
Yes.
And, everything that I see is about teaching and learning. Each one teach one. And there's so much to learn about mental health. And it's so many different roads to mental health. Mental health comes about so many different types of ways. And I'm always skeptic about people who say they specialize, like I'm a specialist, because you can't be a specialist in something that you cannot identify in a proper way. Because when they give us medication and give our children medication and those types of things, they're speculating on an idea based on something that they learned from a book or an ideology that they have about a behavior. And so to put a medication with that is sometimes misleading. Now, I must say this too, as a side note, there are people who need medication. And so we don't want to be dismayed by that.
Right.
Because there is some people who need medication to guide them and to help them until they can do better. So I always want to put that disclaimer there. Although we are people who are talking about we're against medication and we've had the experience with medication and stuff, medication can be helpful to some people.
Right.
But is it helpful to all? Well, no. So I say that because I don't know who's listening. So I don't want you to go just get off your meds.
No.
We don't want to see you at news on 7. So,
No.
the Empire State Building somewhere, or I was on there with them people.
Right. I heard
meds. There was a doctor on there who said, "Stop taking my medication." I always generally when I'm talking or speaking on this subject is let's not fool ourselves. Okay.
Right.
If you're taking medication and that medication is working for you, please continue to take it. Yes. And if you're taking medication and it is not working for you, talk with the physician who gave you the medication. If you have therapy, talk with your therapist and tell your therapist, this is not working for me. But again, what myself and Youni said worked for us. Right. Does not mean it works for you. My license depends upon you hearing that.
And I will say when I first got off the medication, I did start on my own, but I did eventually go to my doctor and said, I already started this process. I feel like this is the best thing for me. And he approved and he helped, helped me wean off, So yeah, don't go cold turkey because you're going to be looking like a jive turkey running around town being crazy.
Right.
Let me say that whatever helps to bring hope for your future, it can serve you spiritually. Right. Keeping a positive outlook and remaining hopeful can be the healing process that starts for you. If you find yourself where your mind is not connecting with your body or the world, don't be afraid to ask for help. Right. Yep. Until you can get yourself in a place where you're comfortable. There's too many stressors going on. When COVID came a couple of years to us, we shouldn't have been surprised because we knew something was coming. But when it came, people who would normally not mix in the same room, be it husband, wife, husband, children, lost their mind. And these are people that live with us every day. Right. Now, take that energy, if you will, to people outside of you, times 10. Okay? That's a lot. Yep. Because, the news never feeds us anything positive. I just wanted to sock Dr. Fauci in his face because of the heightened emotion that he kept on the TV with people who perhaps already mentally can't receive the fact that I might die any moment now because of COVID, and left people in a state of fear with anxiety. People who normally wouldn't have had anxiety got anxiety. Yep. Their brain is triggered because of fear. So we have to be mindful of how we take care of ourselves, keeping a positive outlook, knowing that we are complete, healthy, wealthy, and whole. And if you're not doing good today, then check tomorrow. If you're doing better tomorrow than you was today, if I'm doing better today than I was yesterday, that's a win. That's a win. But just know everything does not work for everybody. Right. Everyone's circumstance is unique. And everyone's cure is unique as well. Right. Okay. Right.
And even touching on, I just wanted to say one thing, touching on what you were saying about the news, even that, paying attention to what you're watching, because all of that fuels your mental and your spiritual health. If you're watching news all day, if you're watching horror movies, if you're watching romances and you just got out of a relationship and you're depressed about your relationship, don't go watch love movies all day to make you sad.
And
Right.
definitely don't watch Lifetime, because if you just got out of a bad
You gonna be
relationship and you watch
scared.
Lifetime, it's over with. I just
It's a
want
wrap, right?
to
It's a wrap. But there's a reason that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the 30s and 40s and 50s, when women were pregnant, was instructed not to go to the movies. Now we in 2022 we may think that sounds crazy, but it's the same topic that we're talking about. What you hear, what you witness with your eyes, you can't unsee, and those thoughts go into the baby that you're bringing into the world. So all of that matters. I know we have just a few more minutes left because we could be here for several hours.
Yeah.
And then we'll turn it into a whole
here for several hours.
I mean, the conversation.
Not I'm leaving.
Right. I know. I'm like, that's when the doctor kicked in.
She's like, I have other things to do. I have patients now.
I'm saying the conversation.
It's bad enough you got me working on a Sunday in my office.
Hey, it's beautiful. I do have a question for you though, Sister Arisah. Because your background is addictions, counseling and psychotherapy around that topic. And so I want to ask you brought up COVID, but I want to ask you, in the last 2.5 years, what are you seeing in terms of addiction, particularly around Black and brown folks, but maybe all people? Just kind of what are you seeing as a theme? What are you seeing as commonalities? Are there increases in any of the work that you've been doing? Just curious.
Yeah, of course there's increase. Because COVID was a domino effect. It affected people's households. It affected people's jobs. It affected people's lives. Many of us lost people, so people were in grief. Of course, there's an increase in drinking and using drugs. Yeah, that goes without saying. It always. Whatever seat you sit in, whether you're Black, brown, white, or yellow, whatever seat you sit in, it always looks more than it actually is because of the seat you sit in. I'm a therapist, so I sit in the seat of a therapist. So when people are coming through my doors at alarming rates, it looks like it's massive, but perhaps it's not. Because of the heightened awareness of COVID, because of the heightened awareness of it, we think it's correlated to that, but it might have been something that was already there and COVID triggered it. Right. For people to come in and get the help that they need. And again, it could be, like I said, people lost jobs, people lost family members, people lost close friends. I know I did. And I felt the depression. I caught COVID, and it was the most awful God thing that I've never been so sick in my life. I had it so bad that I was scared to close my eyes to go to sleep because I didn't think I was going to wake up. I remember the angels being next to my bed telling me to rest. Literally. I could hear the audible voice, rest, Arisah, but I was scared because I thought I wasn't going to wake up. My fever got to 103. And I never have been that sick in my life. And I still have not recovered from it. It appears that I have, but I still have absent-mindedness, still have a cough every once in a while. Still can't sleep, so it just depends on the seat that you sit in, that how that looks, if that's heightened, if any, because in the Black and brown community, addiction is ever going. It's always moving. It's always up. It's always high. It's what I did see spike was domestic violence. Domestic violence spiked in the homes. And that was a visible see. That was it was like we knew domestic violence was there, but then all of a sudden it just spiked. It was more because I work with the Department of Children and Family Services and the criminal courts. And I got more cases from the Department of Children and Family services for domestic violence than I did for drugs and alcohol. Because people don't know how to cope. And when you don't know how to cope and you add a substance to I don't know how to cope, it's a fight in the backyard barbecue.
Not the backyard barbecue. Wow.
I always, Youni, I always like to use humor to make people laugh because you get so serious and then people get to thinking and you're like, you got to make them laugh.
Right. Oh man, that's real though. That's real.
Yeah.
100%. Sister Arisah, I know you may have to run. So before you leave, I would love for you to talk about your ebook, self-esteem ebook. And I'm going to drop the link in there for the folks. But can you share why you believe that will be a useful tool for us?
Well, my ebook, and it's so funny that even when this ebook, Imani is helping me launch stuff because she sees something that I know is in myself, but I don't know how to bring it out. She has the ability to do that. So when I wrote that one and got that one done, I actually created another one like almost overnight based on this topic. So there will be a second one after this one real soon because I took the title from the flyer and wrote the second one. So it's actually already done. I sent the email to you. However, this one's on self-esteem and the power of esteem, knowing how to look, how to build your self-esteem. Because again, we come from no self-esteem to low self-esteem to over the top self-esteem that doesn't serve us. Yeah, our egos can be off the chain. And one of the things that I do with myself to keep my self-esteem moderate, if you will, in an honorable position, is that I cut cords every day to things that don't serve me, and things that don't serve for its highest good. It has to be a reason for it, or else I don't want to be a part of it, nor do I want to do it. And I came from no self-esteem, thinking that I had it by the clothes I wore and the car I drove. Okay. And
that's a whole podcast. But go ahead.
Because I had a few jewels, I thought I had it going on. I thought I had it going on, but then I would go home and I would get in the middle of my bed and I would cry myself to sleep. And then I went to low self-esteem to letting people walk all over me and treat me any old kind of way because I needed to feel a part of. And when I say that to people be like, not you. Oh, yeah, me. Yeah, that happens because it happens in silence. It's not in a place where everyone can see it. And I've just got brave enough over the years to even talk about it because I'm spiritually, fit today. And then I went from low self-esteem to high self-esteem, as my grandmother would say, you so heavenly bound, you ain't no earthly good. So, that now I done poured water and walking on it too, so I could learn how to live and appreciate self-esteem. So one of the things some of the things that I talk about is what is self-esteem, how to develop a good esteem, and then how to increase your self-esteem with yourself. This is work that you can do with yourself. You ain't got to pay nobody but me, but $10 for the interview. And you, I throw that in there. But you don't have to pay thousands of dollars, and go to no $1 million workshop for something that you can literally do in the mirror with yourself on a daily basis.
Mirror work.
And that's what I pray that this book, this ebook, helps you to do. And know that every $10 that you donate gonna help me and somebody else.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Praise be to Allah. I dropped the chat. I dropped the link in the chat. So y'all can jump over there too. It'll be posted too through social media as well. But I will tell y'all because I had to transcribe it. It is very useful. I'm just gonna say, and I'm not saying it just to be saying it. That the activity in there, the just breaking it down the way that she broke it down. Y'all just need to get it. I ain't gonna keep talking about it. So $10. It ain't 10,000. It ain't 1,000. It ain't a whole workshop. This is $10 on yourself today. But it's a powerful, powerful document for us to have, that we can apply to our own lives today. So, Sister Arisah, I appreciate you for taking time out on your Sunday.
Yes. I appreciate being here and being honored and graced with my kinship sister over there, Sister Youni. Just a reflection, and it just makes me feel good to see when young people, because I know I'm older than you. So when I see young people tapping into their own lives and then sharing that with others. I used to always think that I got a late start. Like I said, I'm 28 years sober, and I always thought that I got a late start. But I've now learned, since on this journey in my sobriety, that I didn't get a late start, that I'm right on time. And God always makes a way, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent. Nothing happens without the permission of God. And living in that and living with that, it'll give you the strength, and all of us, anybody listening, all of us, the strength that we need. Whoever God is in your life, use that as a strength and a tool to take you to the next phase of your development. Because what's inside of you, someone needs to know. Even only you.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I am so grateful to have met you today. I'm so happy that you were available to come on. When I was telling Sister Imani my story and we were getting ready to do it, and she was like, "Oh my God, I have to invite the doctor on. Is it okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, more the merrier." And I'm very happy you was here, and just being able to tap into your energy. You're funny, you're genuine, and you're knowledgeable. And those three combined, as you're gonna help a lot of people. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sister Youni, do you have any parting words that you would leave with the folks for tapping in? And again, just thank you, for sharing a piece of your story as you did with us as well. But any closing words from you?
No, not really. Just, everything the doctor said, everything we spoke about today, just practicing mindfulness and just really paying attention and being, real with yourself. Where is it that I need to work on, and where am I trying to go? Even if it's just writing down a list of things that you feel like you struggle with every day. I'm struggling with this, and this is what I'd rather the situation be. And that's just a simple thing that you can do today to just start to change your life around, because it's possible. It's very, very possible, as you just heard.
Absolutely. Well, that is it, y'all. Sunday, May 1st, we kicked off May with this beautiful conversation on mental health and spiritual health. We pray that there is something in this conversation that is beneficial for you, with you, by you, and anything that does not represent the creator, throw it away. But if there is a gift or something that we can impart on you, we hope that you gained something from it. And with all of that, we appreciate you. Y'all know, subscribe to my channel. Make sure you stay connected. Get notified on the next interview that we have. And until next time, be well. Make sure you do something for yourself. And until then, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
salam.